Hello, beep, 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 beep. Welcome to the Court of the EDI Jester. How are we, good people? We're now in February, which means that we're in full steam ahead with our encouraging folk to come and join the winning mindset, creating warriors. All in the doobries, all right? Other than that, subscribe, skip the usual. Okay, so welcome to February. He says, right? Now, Iceland. Let's talk about Iceland. I've got an article here from GenSpect, written for them by Elder DeVille. Now, you may or may not be familiar with Elder. Elder works in this in the GC space in Iceland, right? Okay, he's a grand chap, right? Now, Iceland's a tiny place in terms of population, small. So as Elder told me once during an interview, everybody knows everybody. You know, it's sort of very a very small country. But he's written here about an article that he stumbled across, and I think this is interesting for giving us a flavour of what's happening in Iceland from the 1st of February via GenSpect. I stumbled across an article on the Icelandic Public Broadcasters website this week. This is called RUV in Iceland. Well, what caught my attention was the sensationalist headline, which read, "This is a matter of life and death." I couldn't help wondering what that was all about, and since the public broadcaster had so successfully grabbed my attention, I read on. When I clicked on the article, a gigantic image of the trans flag welcomed me, and in the sub-headline I was informed that the waiting list for hormones and surgery are getting longer, and lack of knowledge is the main cause of transphobia. When I was in the middle of the article, I realised it was just an extract from a radio show on the topic, so I finished reading and listened to the show. Once again, I placed myself in the hands of our knowledgeable, balanced and measured public broadcaster. I hope you took that with a pinch of salt, because I'm not sure how well I've mastered the Anglosphere's sarcasm in writing yet. Yeah, we got it. we got it, right, okay? The radio show is called Mental Health Issues. At the beginning of this episode, which was all about trans and gender identity issues, they started with a disclaimer that gender dysphoria or gender incongruence is not a mental health issue, but the only treatment available in Iceland is from the State Hospital Mental Health Department. That's funny, isn't it? Says Elder, right? Before the interview with the panellists, the mandatory ritual of sharing pronouns was observed. In this production, led by Gudrun Halfdanardóttir. I don't think I've got that right. Again, I keep getting sent things trying to help me do this. That's great. Keep doing it, right? A journalist at RUV. We are taken on a journey through the world of trans, because now it's the law. Self-ID is the law of the land, and the law removed all doubt that this is a mental health issue, and we as law-abiding citizens must obey the law, she says. That's us told. The Sex Autonomy Act of 2019 was legislated by stealth and without any public debate. Sound familiar, good readers, viewers and listeners? Sounds familiar to me, right? Elder there, recognising the same stealth tactics used from, the Denton's document by many people to get this nonsense into legislation and into the world. It was legislated by stealth without any public debate. Nobody knew about it. And then COVID hit. Lockdowns and restrictions meant that people would not notice the Act's impact on same-sex spaces for females. During the pandemic, Reykjavik City Council even published an objection handling manual for staff in the city's sports facilities should they come across a woman protective of her rights in female-only spaces. Dear God, they published here's how you handle the objections of women saying no to men in their spaces. They published a document. Olaf Bjarki Antons is the chair of Trans Iceland. Olaf is a non-binary identifying female, 25, and has a degree in political science. She is from a rural town in the northeast of Iceland called Dalvik, which has approximately 1,400 inhabitants. In her interview, Olaf takes us through her gender journey. She tells us she was a typical gender non-conforming teenager in rural Iceland. She discovered subcultures outside of Iceland on the internet. She stumbled across the term non-binary and felt she finally had a term that described her gender non-conformity. I was eager to hear whether the public broadcaster would dive into these subcultures and where all these new terms came from, but that did not materialise. This was going to be yet another state-sanctioned quasi-religious episode from the Church of Gender. She also described her fear of going out at night in Reykjavik because of an increase in hate crimes. However, according to Iceland's crime statistics, there is nothing that substantiates her claims. The public broadcaster did not contest that either, nor did it ask any questions relating to those claims. The broadcaster spoke with a couple of professionals in the mental health department trans unit. Alexander Bjorn Gunnarsson is a social worker in the adult trans team and is a female who identifies as a man. What? It's the template, isn't it? They've got this template that they use wherever they go, and we're seeing this in Iceland. We're seeing it everywhere, except of course people aren't seeing it. That's the problem. Nobody wants to see it. The king is in the altogether. It really is the Emperor's New Clothes, isn't it? Come on, folks. We know this, right? The public broadcaster asked this LARPing woman about what... Elder didn't say that, I said that, right? Ask this LARPing woman about what the definition of trans is. And I was hoping for a good answer, as it seems very difficult to obtain a clear and concise definition of what trans means. That did not materialise either. I'm still just as unclear about what they actually mean by trans. Apparently it's an umbrella term over everything but biological sex and the binary nature of sex. So it's a completely removed nonsense from reality. Bjorn Halmarsson is a specialist doctor in the adolescent trans team. I was hoping for some critical input here from him because in my activist work I've had communications with him regarding the situation of gender medicine. In May 2022, an article was published by Hemeldine, which is a far left-leaning publication. To my surprise, they had published a really good and balanced report on the topic. The headline read, "In the darkness of activism and a lack of knowledge." I thought we finally would have a medical professional willing to admit to truth, which he did in part. However, the ink had hardly dried when trans activists do what they do best, and that is to name, shame, harass, threaten and picket. By 8 o'clock the same evening, he issued an apology and retracted his words. It's utterly surreal, isn't it? It's utterly surreal. But here we are. I mean, you can see it plainly in this article, which I do urge you to go and read, to understand more about the Icelandic situation. But what a strange world we now live in, because this is the same template being used over and over again. And it appears that nobody in power has got the ability to go, yeah, we're stopping this crap right now. And saying so and doing so swiftly and quickly before anybody gets really hurt. Because, of course, people have been really hurt already. We're past that position. Holding on to this concept of gender identity, gender ideology and trans healthcare, which doesn't need to exist in the world, right? Doesn't need to exist in the world. Okay, is now doing so in the face of what we know is irreversible damage, irreparable bodily harm, and psychological damage to children, young people, and adults. We are well past the point where this is anything other than that. And yet still, people are prevaricating. Still, politicians are prevaricating. And it's happening in Iceland, it's happening in the UK, it's happening in New Zealand, Australia. What's more interesting is to ask yourself the question, where's it not happening? Russia's arrested some folk, I see. Yes. That was going to happen once the TQ started their nonsense there, wasn't it? All right, listen, I'll see you later. Go read. It's good. Elder's article's good. We like Elder. I'll see you later. Ta-ta, peeps.